is, like I said, really ugly. I mean, when I think of some of these things that we've seen, oh, there's some of them. You know, the guy out in his underwear, no clothes on in the cold, the kid, this pepper spray in the face, the lady, disabled lady being pulled out of her car. John, I'm just going to say to you, I'm not trying to pick a fight right away, but my prediction is this stuff, your party is going to get the dog shit kicked out of you in the midterms. No, come on. Because this is not what people voted for, and they're going to hold the party as responsible as they should.
Donald Trump's 2024 campaign.
We will not be conquered. We will reclaim our sovereignty.
A mission to deport millions of undocumented migrants living in the United States.
The largest deportation
in the history of our country.
History of the United States, American history.
A promise that's landing with his base. Mass deportations now signs prominent at this year's RNC.
Yeah, no, we definitely voted for mass deportations. We definitely did. Hello, welcome to a new edition of the Right Wing Populist Podcast. I am the Right Wing Populist. So today I want to talk about Minnesota, all the chaos that's happening in Minnesota. As you know, there have been several high-profile shootings in Minnesota having to do with ICE immigration crackdowns in the state of Minnesota. And unfortunately, 2 U.S. citizens have been killed by ICE agents, and this has led to the biggest controversy like ever, according to the media, according to the Democrats. It's been a total SHIT show, and I want to get into the details of it a little bit, and I want to talk about who's actually at fault here. Why is the chaos happening in Minnesota? Who's really at fault? Is it Trump and the Republicans? Is it Tim Walz, Joe Biden, and the Democrats? Who's really at fault here? Because the media is painting it as it's ICE's fault, as it's President Trump's fault. But I don't think that's actually true, and I'm going to get into why. But before we do, I need you to do something for me, folks. It's so simple, so easy. Even a Democrat could do it. Even Tim Walz could do it. That's how simple it is. I need you to subscribe, whether on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Please subscribe. And if you are listening on the YouTubes, like and comment. It helps a great deal with the algorithm. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. So yes, over the last couple of weeks, you've had two people from Minnesota shot by ICE agents. Alex Priddy, I believe, is the gentleman's name who was just shot, and then Renee Gold, who was a female who was shot by an ICE officer. And they're both pretty, there's been videos released. I'm not going to play the videos on my podcast here. I don't want YouTube to get all weird with me. But the videos are pretty brutal. There's no question about it. I think when it comes to the female, Renee Gold, I believe her name, I think there's a decent argument for self-defense by the police officer. I think her name's actually Renee Good, not Gold. My apologies. Renee Good. I think for that shooting, I think because of the way she was moving her vehicle, you can make a decent argument there was self-defense there, although I'll be honest, I don't think the ICE agent needed to shoot her, to be honest. I don't think, it's a little bit more questionable for sure because she was moving the vehicle, and I could see, based off the video I've seen, why the ICE officer could have thought that perhaps, lethal force was needed to protect himself. But even then, I don't think he needed to shoot her. I don't think she was actually getting ready to use the vehicle as a weapon against the ICE officer. But that one's a little bit, I could see the argument for self-defense there. Unfortunately, with this other shooting that just happened, Alex Priddy, I don't see the self-defense argument by the ICE agents. First off, I've seen people on the right saying, well, he had a gun. He had a loaded gun. It's like, well, I thought we supported the Second Amendment if we're on the right. That's not a justification for being shot. The fact that he had a gun, he's allowed to have a gun. He's an American. Second Amendment. He's allowed to have a gun. And when he was being detained by these officers, they took his gun away from him. He didn't have his gun on his person, and they still shot him. And it wasn't like, you can watch the videos for yourself. It's not like this Alex character, it's not like he was directly preventing ICE from doing their immigration crackdowns. He was recording them. He wasn't directly obstructing any law enforcement operation. That's not what happened here. I mean, look at the footage yourself. So I don't think they needed to shoot this guy. I think the ICE officers are wrong. I think they should be prosecuted. They didn't need to shoot him. He was no threat. They'd already disarmed him. They didn't need to shoot him. So, and I see people on the right, like defending these ICE officers. I don't think you can defend these ICE officers here. They didn't need to shoot him. So I will grant you both those cases, particularly the last one, they're both terrible. But that's not why we got here. It's not the ISIS fault ultimately that we're having all this chaos. It's the Biden administration's fault because it's the Biden administration who let these people in. I'm going to get into that in a second, but let's play a couple of clips of Trump responding to the controversy having to do with Minnesota.
When you first saw that video?
Well, I think the whole thing is terrible. I don't like the fact that he was carrying a gun that was fully loaded and he had 2 magazines with him, and it's pretty unusual. But nobody knows when they saw the gun, how they saw the gun, everything else. Bottom line, it was terrible. Both of them were terrible. The other was terrible, too.
I have, yeah. I think she's doing a very good job. The border is totally secure. You know, you forget. We had a border that I inherited where millions of people were coming through. Now we have a border where no one is coming through. They come into our country only legally. So you have to remember those things.
Now, in the clips I played, as you heard, Trump defends Kristi Noem there. I got to be honest, I don't think she's long for the administration. If nothing else, that there's rumors that she's having affairs with like everyone. Any male she sees, she just wants to have sex with them. It's crazy. Like if you have a penis and you're on Kristi Noem, she just goes crazy. It's weird. I don't. That's what the rumors are. I'm not spreading the rumors. I'm just hearing these rumors. But let's not even get into that. Let's not get into that. But Trump makes the right point that the reason, in all seriousness, the reason why we have to have such strong policies toward cracking down on illegal immigration is because of how terrible the border was when Trump got back into office. It's the Democrats that had the border in such terrible shape, and Trump has locked down the border. There's been reports and there's documentation and there's data that border crossings at our all-time lows. The Trump administration has successfully cracked down the border. We're not having people illegally cross the southern border. But the problem is millions of people were let in during the 4 years of Biden. And the Biden administration didn't do anything about it. And the excuse the Biden administration used, what Joe Biden used, was the fact that they needed legislation. We need legislation. But we didn't need legislation. Trump hasn't gotten new legislation. I mean, in the big, beautiful bill, we got some more funding for border security, but that doesn't come into effect until this year. Trump locked down the border the previous year, 2025. He got the border, shut down. So the idea that we needed legislation wasn't true, but this was the excuse the Democrats and what Joe Biden used. And I'm going to play the clip now. This was at the famous debate when Joe Biden shit his pants and they replaced him with Kamala. But this was the debate between Trump and Biden back in July of 2024. And you can see here how Biden blames the fact that they haven't secured the border or not getting bipartisan legislation passed. But then Trump responds by making it clear that you don't need legislation. He was proven to be right. So let's listen to this clip because it's pretty illuminating to the situation we're in right now.
That not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president.
Okay, so Trump was 100% right. You didn't need legislation to close the border. As Trump has proven in his first year back in office, you don't... Look, the reason why you don't need legislation is the laws are already on the books to enforce immigration law. Okay, it's already illegal to cross the border. We already have Border Patrol. We already have ICE. Legislation wasn't needed. You just needed the will to do it. Now the problem is, the problem is that, like I said, we already had 4 years of Biden, and millions of people have come into the country. And look, as I made clear, Trump ran on mass deportations. He got elected on mass deportations, so he's doing mass deportations. And I'm sorry, even if this is going to happen more often in blue states because they're not going to enforce immigration law themselves. So, you have, the idiot governor from Minnesota, Tim Walz, who recently just said he would beat up J.D. Vance. So, he seems like a real stable guy. But you have idiots like Tim Walz who aren't going to help enforce immigration policy. So the Trump administration is forced to go into Minnesota and try to enforce federal law. And again, as I pointed out and as I played at the beginning of the podcast, Trump ran on this. This is not new. He ran on mass deportations. The people elected him for it. We had the signs. There were literally signs at Trump rallies saying mass deportations now. This is not new information. So, you want to, look, obviously the ICE agents, I don't think handled, certainly the Alex Pretty situation well at all. The first shooting with Good is a little bit more complicated when she hit the woman in the car, the lesbian. But that's a little bit more complicated. But the reason why we have to have such, strict ICE policy now, and the reason why ICE has to be so combative to, first off, you have a lot of provocateurs. There's a huge anti-ICE sentiment by people on the left and people who want to target ICE agents. I mean, that's why they have to wear these masks, these ICE agents. I don't think they want to, but, there's so much animosity from the left, and people want to dox them, do much worse things to them. Frankly, you could understand why these ICE agents maybe are so, quick to pull the trigger, because they know that they're targets. Not just by citizens, by, normal U.S. citizens, by illegal immigrant gangs or even legal immigrant gangs. ICE agents are targets. And this is the Biden administration. This is the Democrats' fault because they let all these people in. They could have secured the border. Like I said, Trump proved that you could secure the border without legislation. So, it's a sad situation what happened in Minnesota. I don't think with the second shooting that was justified. I think those ICE officers who shot him should be prosecuted. But the reason why we're in this mess, the reason why ICE is so needed and why we have to do all these crackdowns is because of how the Democrats handled the border for the 4 years when Trump wasn't in office. I mean, the reason why, one of the biggest reasons Trump got back into office is because of how the border was so mishandled by the Democrats. So that's the reality. So you can be critical of the ICE agents, which I am, especially the second shooting. I don't support that at all. But Trump ran on mass deportations. He got elected for it. There's been polling data that shows people, at least heading into the 2024 election, people supported mass deportations. So this is what you get. Elections have consequences. Bad policy has consequences. And Trump has to fix it. And he's been fixing it. But that includes deporting people that shouldn't be here, which includes criminals, gang members, etc. Are there maybe some innocent people who get swept up? I guess. But look, if you're here illegally, you're here illegally. I don't have a lot of sympathy for you. Maybe I should, but I don't. So it's good to see in the clips I played of Trump that he's not really backing down. It was smart of him to voice sympathy for the families, but It's also good that he emphasized the fact that this is the problem caused by the Democrats because of how terribly they mishandled the border, mostly because they want the votes. That's why they want amnesty. They want the votes. So anyway, it's a tragedy what's happening in Minnesota, but it's not the Trump administration's fault. It's really the Democrats' fault. It's the Biden administration's fault, and we should not forget that. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. We should be back tomorrow. Again, please subscribe, whether on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you are listening on the YouTubes, like and comment. It helps a great deal with the algorithm. Like I said, we should be back tomorrow, folks. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you fall in love. Or if you have a bad lover, I hope you fall out of love. But we'll be back tomorrow, folks. Have a good day. Bye-bye.